This is Mary and Mello with the Hometown Legends podcast series. And today we have a special guest joining us on today's episode, straight from Detroit, Michigan, selected by the 76ers, Derrick Gervin. Derrick, Mello, and I want to thank you for joining us today and taking some time out of your day to be here and just share a little bit about your life and what you've done throughout your NBA career and what you are currently doing in the community.
Well, first, let me say even thank you for all of you, for you two young people even reaching out to me. And I say young, I guess I'm the new era, the old people now. But I just want to thank you, first of all. And I'm really honored to be on the show. And hey, I can't wait to get started.
Yes, we're glad
Most
to have you
definitely, we
here.
thank you for that, for sure.
You're welcome.
Okay, Derek, let's start off with you. Like Miss Mary said, born and raised in Detroit. We know that Detroit has a long history of basketball players and sports in general. Outside of, we will not definitely leave the Motown era out of this neither and recognize it. The city of Detroit. But since you being here on the show, you was a great basketball player yourself. If the name Gervin doesn't register with anyone, then they're really not basketball fans. So you are the brother of George Gervin, the legend, Hall of Famer George Gervin. You yourself had your own great professional basketball career as well. But let's start about in the city of Detroit. How was it growing up in Detroit on the basketball in the basketball world?
Wow. Well, I know we only have an hour, so I'll try to keep it short. I got a long basketball history. Well, a
Yes,
lot of
sir.
people know about George, but it started with my older brother. My oldest brother's name is Booker Gervin, and Booker also lives in San Antonio now. I'm the youngest by a lot, so Booker's 72. I'm 59. George basically followed my two older brothers. I lost a brother in 2013, Claude. So rest in peace, brother. So George
My
basically
condolences.
learned from my two older brothers. Booker was the one got us started. He was Steph Curry before Steph, if people can believe that. And that's what I grew up on. My brother was a guy that liked to shoot the 35, 40 footer. And so I grew up basically following his lead. George is 11 years older than me. I'm sorry, and Booker's 13 years older. So I grew up following Booker. George actually wasn't a really good player when we were coming up. George didn't start taking off, I say, till he was about 16 years old. Before that, and
Okay.
I hate to say it, he's my brother, but I have to be honest, his game was horrible as a young guy. Oh boy, he was a string bean. It's funny because we both end up at 6'8", 6'9". George was 5'9" in high school, and he
Wow.
probably wore like 150
5'9".
pounds. 5'9". And within the summer, and I'm telling this is a true story, between his sophomore year and his junior year, when he went back to school, he was about 6'5". So you could see his skills
Mhm.
starting to get better. He
Right.
started going to the gym night after night. My mom told him as long as he did what he was supposed to do, spent all his time in the gym, and he worked hard, and he kept his grades up, he could go to the gym as long as he wanted.
Hmm.
So there was a gentleman named Mr. Winters, the maintenance man. I don't go with the janitor and all that stuff, so that's not for me. So I'll say maintenance. He told
Yes, sir.
George as long as George would help him clean up the gym, he could stay in the gym as long as he wanted. So George used to go and he'd be gone all day. And then I just started seeing his game get better. And then I started having my own aspirations. I'm like, wow,
Hmm.
if my brother can become that good from putting in the work, and it was a short period of time, I felt that I could do the same. And my goal wasn't to necessarily go to the NBA, be a Hall of Famer, or any of that. My goal was to try to get better as a player, as a young person, from day to day, and just become the best player I could, and then let my future. We would see what my future entails.
Yes, sir. Who has the better finger roll out of the three brothers?
Well, that's a tough one because George also has a son, George Jr., that played three
Okay.
years at the University of Houston for Clyde Drexler, and
Okay.
G is only about 6'1". So I would say it's a toss up. I'm gonna put myself in there, but I would say George shot the right hand finger roll better, I would give G and myself a better opportunity. I'll say our percentages were better with the left hand.
Okay, okay. That is definitely fair.
You know, being that you were the younger brother and seeing your brothers go in and put a lot of effort into, I guess, strengthening their game on the court, what exactly did you take? What was your takeaway from them? Seeing them go and put in that dedication every day. What is something that you were more so focused on to better your career?
Well, I always talk about the game and the aspects away from the court, the behavior as well. My oldest brother set the standard on the court, but he was kind of a braggadocio, and I didn't really like that. So you try to take some of the good things. I learned that. I saw that about him. That wasn't the part I liked. So
Hmm.
I just try to work on my craft and just work hard and let my game speak for itself. And that's the things I took at a young age. And I wish the young people out there would listen to that. It's about sometimes you have to follow your own mind. I was
Right.
never a guy that liked to taunt people. So I made sure that I just went out on the court and just let my game work for me. And I figured if you really, the best way to taunt someone is by whooping their butt out on the court. And that's what I always try to do. That's what George always tried to do. And I have to mention the human aspect because what makes me so proud of my brother is to have a Hall of Fame career. I could
Mhm.
never name one time that he taunted a player. And that's the thing that was always big to me. And as you see today, some of the things that are going on, I'm hoping the young people take that, hear me clearly. You don't have to show people up by taunting them. You show
Mhm.
them up by bringing your A game. And that's the biggest message I can really give to any young person out there today.
Thank you for saying that, and that's important because you know, you're older than we are, and even playing sports, we both play basketball as well, and we know that competitors brings trash talking, and it's a part of the game. But
Mhm.
there's a line that you just don't cross, and like you said, showing up people and things like that, that's not good for the game. Is that something that you see going on starting because you work with youth? Do you see that as a problem with the young youth as today starting at an early age?
Well, I actually do my own show as well. So, and I talk a lot on Facebook. So I wrote, actually, it was like 2 weeks ago. There was I saw some 9-year olds that were taunting at one of the games. And I thought that was ridiculous. But, it's hard for me to get mad at the young people because they're still in their stages of learning from us. The biggest problem I have today is the parents. And it's,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of good parents out there, but we have too many parents that are out here trying to live their own, I would say, pipe dreams is what I call them, and you're trying to live through your kids. And
Right.
a lot of times that's not the right way because when you hear parents in the stands and you played the game, both of you, so a lot of times you hear in the stands, you hear parents telling their kids, shoot,
Right.
shoot,
Mhm.
shoot. And so really you're undermining the coach and you're undermining the team.
Mhm.
There's so much more to the game of basketball than getting your shots up. It's a 5-player team. There's 5 players out there. You have to have some cohesion, I'll call it. You have to be everybody on the same page. And that's the story I think that's more important. It's not about everybody, they want to do the Steph Curry and the muscles and all that. I can understand that, but there's a time and a place for that. Right now, just try to work on your craft, become the best player you can be. And with that comes what they call behavior. Down here, I stress with these young people down here. I deal with a lot of ninth graders, but I deal with a lot of kids in San Antonio. My thing is what I like is you hear a lot of people talk about student athletes. I'm a guy that talks about scholar athletes.
I
So I
like that.
think people forget them. Yeah, well, if you that's the message. The ball is going to roll away at some point in your career, and it's what do you do after that? I have a sister here that's a state representative for the east side of San Antonio, and she used to always talk to me about having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. I actually ended up naming the George Gervin Youth Center. The school is called the George Gervin Coyotes now. And the reason I picked the name Coyote is because I made the kids go in here and do your due diligence and get in there and see why I picked Coyote. A coyote is adaptive. Wherever you
Mhm.
drop them off, they will survive. So that's what kids are about today. Our school was called an at-risk school, but I don't believe that. I know there's a lot of peer pressure going on, but I don't fall into that stigma about kids being at risk and all of that. They all have a chance to succeed and do well, and that's what I try to harp on is the positives. So with a coyote being a person that's adaptable, they can survive in all environments. That was the most important thing for me of all my time at George Gervin.
Mm. And speaking of being adaptable, how did you adapt to leaving Detroit, Michigan, and going to the University of Texas at San Antonio?
Oh my goodness. Well, I was in Detroit. Okay, I was on my way to either DePaul. At that time, DePaul was the number one school in the country basketball, and they had a guy named Mark Aguirre. So I was headed there, and then I was also looking at Michigan. I'm a maize and blue. I bleed the maize and blue. So I was my two choices had come down to those two schools only. And
Okay.
then about 2 months later, my family, my sister gets a call from my brother. George is down with the Spurs. He calls my sister to come to San Antonio and work for him. So my sister and my mom were like car seats and spinal cords, as they say. So you see one, you see the other. So I knew that there was no way my sister would uproot to Texas without reaching out to my mom. She reaches out to my mom. My mom reaches out to her youngest son, which is Derrick, me. Son, we're headed to Texas. And I'm like, wait a minute now, mom, this is my opportunity to pick my school to go to college. So I still decided on Texas. I'm sorry, on DePaul or Michigan. And then I get a call from my brother. George wanted me to come to San Antonio. I was kind of rough around the edges in high school. So it was best, my family, we all put our heads together. I decided to listen to my family. I decided to uproot, and I ended up in Texas. I took a visit to the University of Texas, Austin. I thought that was a little too fast for me. Coming from the city, from Detroit, I kind of need to slow down a little bit. So I ended up looking at a school in my own hometown in San Antonio, actually, so that my mom could see me play. And I would also get a chance to see George play. And that made sense to me. My mom could see him one day, could see me play one day, and I could also keep up with my brother. And in turn, he could do the same. So that's how I ended up at the University of Texas, San Antonio.
The family dynamics seem very close. So that must have made that transition, even easier for you and family as a whole. George playing in the league, you're attending college, your mother and your sister is there. Uprooting, leaving with that family dynamics being as close as it sound like it is for you guys. That was great. How easy was that for you? To be able to focus on your academics and play ball, and to be able to see your brother play in the NBA and just learn and grow from the college game and the NBA game, because you was at an advantage of probably most players on your team.
Right.
Well, it was actually when I got here, it was exactly the opposite. Coming from Detroit,
Really?
I was kind of wild. I had my own brand new car at 16 years of age. So I like to chase the ladies. I'll just be honest about it. So I was living that life basically, and so it was a good thing for me to come here and kind of slow down.
Hmm.
But when I got to University of Texas San Antonio, I had to make an adjustment because the coach was from Eastern Illinois. His name is Don Eddy, rest in peace. And our basketball minds were totally different. I grew up on putting the ball in the basket. And that's what I've been like since I was 10 years old. In Detroit, we had a league called the Police Athletic League, the PAL League. And so from 10 years old, I was the guy that teams tried to pick up, kind of like they do KD now.
Hmm.
I, I was that guy at 10 years old. So coming here,
Okay.
my coach wanted to score 60 or 70 points a game. And I had a problem with that. And I'm going to tell you a true story. Our first meeting with my new team, first meeting, I'm a freshman. We're in the video room. And my coach turns on the video and he's telling the players, what he expected. 8 points from you, maybe 10 points from you, young lady, and 6 points from this guy. And I always felt that wasn't realistic.
Mm.
And so I raised my hand in the first meeting and I told coach, that's not going to work, sir. I said, I worked too hard. I worked on my game too long in Detroit to come down here and be basically a robot.
Mm.
So I told, yeah, I fought with my coach my whole first year. And the first year he sat me down, I probably played like 24 minutes a game out of a 40-minute game. I still end up leading the team in scoring, 14 points. I led us in rebounds, 7 rebounds a game. But that wasn't the style that I was used to. So I continued to work on my game. And over the summer, all I saw was like a punching bag. I saw my coach's face. I worked out all summer, and the sophomore year, I got a chance to become Derrick. And then as we go on, I can tell you a little more. But somebody was going to win out of that between coach and myself, and I was betting on myself.
Right. And how did it feel, to be sat out your whole first year and to be a little bit combative with your coach in regards to, your playing?
Well, my goal was to play NBA. I was the first. They called me the first superstar down here at UTSA. So when I came in, I know it was a lot of pressure on myself, but it was also a lot of pressure on my coach because I was the first guy that had a name with notoriety. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a pretty big name in high school in Detroit. So coming down here, it brought notoriety to the school immediately. But I wanted to win. And I figured if I go to any school, when I first went to UTSA, I know you are young, but they have a gentleman used to coach the Minnesota Vikings, and he coached back. He was the owner. His name is Red McComb. So Red McComb is known all over the United States. I met with Red, and when I met with Red, I promised him I will be patient with the process. And
Mm-hmm.
as you know, today they talk about the Philadelphia 76ers trust the process, but
Mm-hmm.
I was doing that way before them. So I kind of bought into what Mr. McComb was telling me. And I fought with the coach the first year, but it wasn't all negative. He
Mm-hmm.
understood that I was coming from a different environment. So at some point we started meeting in the middle a little bit. And things ended up working out, but it was a challenge my first year. It very much was a challenge.
Before we move on, I want to have a little fun with this question. I want you to include yourself in this conversation. As we said, Detroit, a long list of players from the city of Detroit, quality players. You have 7 players, including yourself, and that's 7, to go to any city to play the best of the best. Name those other 6 players that you chosen from the city of Detroit.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Well, one of them was the first pick in the ABA draft in 1970. He was a Rookie of the Year and MVP. His name is Spencer Haywood.
Okay.
So that would be one for me. My teammate in New Jersey, Derek Coleman, who was also #1 pick, would be 2 for me. There's a gentleman that stole one of my moves from Detroit. They call him Tricky. His name is Steve Smith. That would be my
Uh-oh.
3rd. George would be my 4th. So far, I got Spencer, I got George, I got Steve Smith, I got Derek Coleman, I have myself. That's 5. I would take
2
Jalen
more.
Rose.
Okay.
Well, Jalen Rose, and then the last one will be C. Webb, Chris Webber.
Okay.
Hey. Okay. I love that list right
Well,
there.
I figured I didn't really need a point guard because a few of us can handle the ball. So,
What move was it? I must ask. You said Steve Smith stole your move. What move is that? Which one is that?
well, I talked to him about it before. It's like when he's on the baseline and he catches the ball on the baseline and he's act like he's going to drive towards the middle. And then he stops and spins back baseline, and there's no help defense. The defense can't recover quick enough. So he
Mm,
fake it one
That
direction and stop and
oh.
switch direction. Yeah, you know the move. I just
okay.
saw you.
Yeah.
So I must say, do I have your permission to start calling it the Derek Steve move, man?
Well, I told him we'll meet in the middle. It's actually funny. I had run into Chris Webber in Las Vegas, and we were in the airport. And Chris said, "Man, Steve and I were just talking about you yesterday." And I said, "Well, you talking about him stealing my move? I hope." So we still have a lot of fun talking about that, but I'll let it stay Steve's move because I became injured in the NBA. And Steve went on to have what I call a very stellar career. So we can stick with the Steve Smith move.
Most definitely, that he did. Which he did play for the San Antonio Spurs himself at one point in time.
Say that again?
I said, which he did play for the San Antonio
Yes.
Spurs himself. Yes,
Yes. And so they brought in another classy guy. Yeah. And the thing I want to say about the people I mentioned, because a lot of people have these stigmas about certain cities. And you know how they say, but I don't believe in that. All the guys I named were intelligent guys. And so it goes back to what I said earlier. As you know, this is a fraternity. All these guys, we're like friends for life. And we don't
for
like
sure.
to just be stigmatized where they only talk about, shut up and dribble and all that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. As you know, being a player yourself, there's so much more that we have to offer. And that's what I think is just as important as getting out the basketball side. It's also the life aspect and the things that we do for the community and try to help one another as well.
Perfect pivot. You just pivoted us to that part of the conversation. We will be talking about you, the community, and just social issues as well. We're going to reset real quick. This is the Hometown Legends podcast series hosted by Miss Mary Ashley and myself, Mello Williams. Today's special guest is Mr. Derrick Gervin, who do like to be called Derrick.
You got good memory. Good memory.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's go to you, your organization. You said something very profound that I love. You said you don't love the term at-risk youth.
Mm.
You have programs that sound like they're preventative for people not to be able to use that term at-risk youth. Would you talk about, like you said, being from Detroit, community guys, you guys like to do things with your platform to help the community. Would you speak about some of the things that you have done and currently are doing for the community?
Well, I came down here. I was playing my last year. Actually, I retired in 2001, and at that time it was the ABA. They had brought back the ABA, so I was fortunate to go back to Detroit my last year and to play. George was actually the coach, and George Jr. was also on the team. So I was fortunate to do that. And George, I appreciate him for giving me the opportunity. So after that, I come back home. That same year, I started working at the George Gervin Youth Center. I did that from 2001 to 2014. And what we did is a lot of different programs there. I worked in a program, actually a 16 to 24-year-old program. And a lot of those kids, 95% of them have been incarcerated. So
Mm.
we were trying to teach them about, teaching them the HVAC, the air conditioning, just learning a trade.
Right.
And I have to say this on this show, and I mean this seriously. Basketball is a great sport, but as you know, school is not for everyone. And that
Hmm.
might sound cruel, but it's the truth. That's why they have trades. And so down here, we offer a lot of different ways for you to be successful. If it's not through the school system, then we get you involved in these trades. And that was what I enjoyed the most, working with a group of 16 to 24-year-olds. And you never know what these young people go through or during the course of their life, or even the course of a 24-hour day. And
Right.
I think sometimes people forget how impactful we can be just by a handshake or a hello or how you doing, the little things. And I've always been about the little things. So to be able to work at a school system and to work with a 16 to 24-year-old young people to help them go out and get trades, to take them to a college every day, 5 days a week, and be there and watch them and do their thing in class, and just to start believing in themselves and see the growth as a human being. That means more to me than the basketball part.
Hmm.
Sometimes you get me started, I talk very little about basketball because I care about people so much.
Mm.
And basketball is one avenue, but it leads you to the path, what I call the American dream. Say
Hmm.
you get injured, and I have to be realistic because there haven't been 5,000 people all time that have played in the NBA. As long as the NBA has been going on, I believe since like 1947, it's been going on for 60 years, over 60 years, 70 years, and there haven't been 5,000 players. So that should be a message to everyone out here, to the fans, to the parents. Stop trying to get your child somewhere before their time. If you
Mm.
notice now in society, we skip steps, and that's what bothers me. People want the success right away. And you have to work for what you want. Nothing's going to be given to us in society. Nothing's going to be given to you in the basketball world. That is a business. I think sometimes people forget it's a business. But this is for the parents. Right now, if your child is a seventh grader, all you want them to do is become a more mature person between the seventh grade and the eighth grade. And that's a daily grind, trying to
Mhm.
just work on yourself and becoming the best person you can be. And because I believe that as you're becoming the best person you can be, your basketball game, your sports game, whatever the sport may be, you're becoming a better player in that as well because you're strengthening your mind and you're learning more ways to succeed as opposed to ways to fail.
Mhm.
Mm.
Well, I know that you're currently at the Gervin Youth Center. You did mention something about shifting your focus and joining another program on Monday. Talk about that program that you're going to be joining.
Well, I kind of hurt my brother's feelings. He didn't want me to leave Gervin, but I told him that sometimes you have to leave the nest. And your mom, I left that nest, so now I'm leaving another one. I've
Mhm.
spent 20 years basically dealing with the Gervin Center, and I just felt it was a time for a change. I've never like been the one that wanted to be under one umbrella, and a lot
Mhm.
of people have even in college they used to try to call me Young Ice, Ice Cube, and all of that. I would have been Ice Cube before that original Mr. O'Shea Jackson.
Right.
But I didn't want that name. I always wanted to be called just Derrick. So
Mhm.
what I've tried to do is just tell people to have your own identity. I never wanted to be like George. I told
Mhm.
you earlier when we started the show, I wanted to be like Booker, and that's my big brother. But I only
Mhm.
wanted to be him like till I was about 6 or 7 years old. From that point on, I'm the kind of guy that used to walk the neighborhood. It was safe back then. Everyone could go out in the neighborhood. All the neighbors knew everyone, and they were going to make sure you were safe. So I'm
Mhm.
the kind of guy who used to walk up and down the street from a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 year old, always thinking about stuff, how I could make my own identity. And so I always used to say, George is a great person. My oldest brother Booker is a great person, other than the taunting. But I also just wanted to have my own identity, and part of that identity was just caring about people. And if I could help them in any way, that was always my thing. It didn't have to be through basketball. So the youth center was actually perfect for me.
Mhm.
I got to tell you a quick story. My sister, I told you she's state representative. She told me about 2 years ago that I should leave the north side of San Antonio and migrate to the east side of San Antonio because I know more kids than she does. And and running the school for 20 or 30 years, that means she knows a lot of kids.
Mhm.
But that just made me feel good. And I've actually been thinking about lately, how can I help in the community a little more? We don't have the voices here in San Antonio, and I'm speaking right now for African Americans. Who's
Mhm.
that voice is going to continue to lead us on the right path? And I
Right.
know we all have our challenges in life, but you always have to think about others. It's not about me. So what keeps me up every day, what wakes me up, is trying to help someone else and to see them go out and, reap the what I want to say, reap the benefits, and to try
Mhm.
to help someone else as they're doing the same. Always try to help thy fellow man, thy fellow woman, and that's what I live by.
As they say, it takes a village, each one, teach one,
Yeah,
So
yeah,
for it being Black History Month, we must say Happy Black History Month to you as well.
yes,
You are
sir, yes,
historic
sir.
every day by the work that you are doing in the community. Um, and now that you're branching off doing your own thing, what more motivation, like focus, where's your focus, the motivation that now that you want to do more in depth of or more of?
Well, I'm actually the place I'll be working. I'll be starting Monday with my new group, and it's about 30-minute drive from San Antonio. It'll be the same. I like doing the basketball aspect. I like doing camps and I like doing trainings. But I talk a lot, and I do talk a lot about the kids. It's actually funny because when I'm by myself, I'm very much a loner. So when I go home, I'm like the quietest guy that you could find. But when I'm with those kids, man, and I'm gonna say this, and I mean this seriously. I told some kids last week, I'll be 60 in March. And I actually don't know if I'll still be alive if it wasn't for these kids. They're like my Energizer bunny. And
Mm-hmm.
so to see them go out here and, life, I mean, wow, man. If you look at it today, you have a lot of people, the suicide rate is up. So I've joined another group. There's a guy I used to play with my team, and I don't mean to be bouncing around, but a guy that played with me with the Nets, his name is Dennis Hobson. He just had a street named after him a few days ago in his hometown of Columbus, Ohio. And Hop is from, us playing together in New Jersey. I end up playing against him in Israel, and we're still friends to this day. So that's the stuff that's more important to me when I talk about the kids. It's always about, it used to be what you know, now it's who you know.
No. Mm-hmm.
So it's our job to uplift each other.
Right.
If I'm successful, even like today, being on this show, if I could help make this show, the ratings grow or whatever, I feel like I've done my job just by being on here because it will help the two of you. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know you two personally, but today you became, you got a new friend for life, and that's me. And I mean it sincerely. Anyone that knows me will tell you, once you come into my life, you're a friend for life. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I try to get these young people to understand. Believe in yourself and believe in your ability to impact others in a positive way. I always make sure I stress positive way because I'm not the type that's going to tell you whatever you do, be the best at it. Because some people could take that as go out there and be out there slinging and all that other stuff. So I make sure I tell you to stay on the straight and narrow. And that's the thing that's most important to me out of everything that I've done.
Now, I heard you mention something about playing basketball in Israel. While you were in Israel, you were the two-time top scorer. How was that? How did it feel just to be over there to experience playing in a different league?
Well, I have to tell you the negative part first. I
Okay.
would have been I played there 3 years. I would have been the three-time scoring champion. But my last year, I kind of fell off attitude wise.
Mm-hmm.
Last game of the season, I'm leading in scoring. I'm playing against a friend of mine. He's second in scoring. They had a guy on their team kind of cheap shot at me early in the game, and he hurt me,
Mm.
boy. I mean, he elbowed me in my ribs. I haven't been hurt like that in quite a while. So I end up, and I don't want the kids to take this part from me. I end up getting ejected
Mm-hmm.
in the first 2 minutes of the game. So I know if that game I would have had about 45 or 50, so I would have cemented my third scoring title. But it goes back to what I said about behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So from that point on, I have not looked back. I've not looked back. And while I'm saying this, I don't mean I have to bring in George. George at college, his sophomore year, George also had a guy that cheap shot at him.
Mm-hmm.
George punched the guy and got kicked out of college. So he had to go play in the Continental Basketball Association, the CBA, as opposed to being a first round NBA draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
So he had his little incident and I had mine. And from that point on, both of us have become model citizens. We've learned that you can't let people push your buttons. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's another learning tool that I use for the young people. I tell them our stories, how similar it is, how it intertwines. We both got kicked out of games, and it went on to make us better people. And that means if we can do it, that means so can they. Don't go through the first incident, the incident that I went through. You can avoid that now. That's what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about, strengthening the mind and learn how to lead yourself where you want to go. Your future, I'll say it like this, your future is in your hands. And I
Right.
mean that sincerely. So you got to think about the decisions you make. And that's one thing I'm still doing today at on my way to 60 years old, still trying to become the best person that I can be.
Thank you for being on the show. I mean, because you're doing nothing but dropping gems. And first and foremost, let me say that we accept your friendship for life
Mm-hmm.
on behalf of Miss Mary and USC Elite Basketball. And that's what it's about, especially for us and our culture. You use your platform, other players, Etan Thomas, Stephon
Yeah.
Marbury. There's other players that use their platforms that the NBA or professional or other organizations try to like silence and exile out. But now with technology being, where it's at, you guys are able to use your platforms to reach and teach at the same time. Um, and you're talking about decision making right now, and a lot of kids are faced, as we were as well, with a lot of a lot of things going on. But it seems like there's a lot more going on in life right now. How much do you really show your kids, the youth that you work with, what's going on in reality, and how important it is to see and to recognize, things that's not good for you, and to be able to feel strong and confident to make the right decision to say no.
Well, sometimes the kids think because they're on these social media sites that the older people don't know about it. So I'll have sometime I'll be in practice and I might bring up Snapchat or I might bring up TikTok.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, then you should see the looks on their faces. And so then, I started talking to them because, even when you like build a team, you don't really know them personally as much as you like to from the
Right.
beginning. So I
Mhm.
like to spend time with all my players. I call them personally. It's not just when we have practice. I call them during the week. I'm a guy. I have a thing I call it All A Monday, All A Tuesday, and I live by that. Every day that they go to school, I'm expecting all A's,
Mm.
and I tell them that on a daily. So after we have our huddle after practice, if it's Tuesday and we're going into the next day is Wednesday, when we do our little pound, 1, 2, 3, All A Wednesday. And those are the things I live by. I think people forget now. Everyone out here is not going to be a rapper.
Mhm.
Everyone out here is not going to be a basketball player. I always wanted to be able to talk to a lawyer. Being from the city of Detroit, I wanted to be able to talk to a lawyer. I wanted to be able to talk to a doctor. I wanted to be able to talk to Obama. I wanted to be able to talk to the homeless person and
Mhm.
always sound like I had some intelligence. And that's the first thing that I wanted to do when I moved from Detroit. A lot of my friends say that I talk, and I'll say it. They say I talk white, whatever that means. And I
Right.
say, I used to get offended by that because I said, why when black people, when they talk with intelligence, like they
Mhm.
want people to know how much intelligence they have, how does that equate to talking white?
Right.
I said, there are a lot of black people out here that have it going on.
Mhm.
I say, so when I see a Colin Powell or Oprah Winfrey or someone that's doing it, it doesn't make me white to try to be on the right path like they are.
Right.
It's just educating yourself. So, every day is a teachable moment. Basketball is just one avenue for me. And why can't I talk like I'm intelligent? That's why I went to
Mhm.
school. It kind
Mhm.
of it doesn't make sense to me to go to school all these years to be uneducated. So why not let people know that you have some education? And that's one of the things that I've taken out of this. That's one of the things I continue to preach to the young people. If you have intelligence, people don't know it unless you show it.
Mm.
Mm.
I like that.
Uh, that
Like
got me
like you
blushing.
said,
Thank you.
basketball doesn't last forever. I mean, like I'm processing everything that you said right there. I mean, you painted so many perfect pictures for me. I
Mhm.
mean, vividly, right? So it's like with these youth, and you said basketball doesn't last forever, right?
Right.
Basketball, when the ball goes flat, you could become an agent, you could become a coach, you could become a referee, you could become a scout, you could become a
Mhm.
psychologist, you could become a lawyer, as you said, right?
Yes, sir.
How important is it for kids to recognize that once the ball goes flat, that there's still life in that said sport that they love?
Well, see, now you have an advantage. When we played, remember now I'm coming out of the ghetto, so we trying to get our mom out of the ghetto. So I basically had a one-track mind.
Mm.
My two sisters were the brains in the family. The guys, the four of us, were our way. Our ticket out was basketball.
Mhm.
But see, I was fortunate to be the one in school in our family, the only one that ended up going to. I went to the best school in Detroit as a freshman. Diana Ross went there. It's called Cass Technical High School. So I just wanted to always show people I had a pen. I kind of got lazy when I got my new vehicle and end up having to apologize to George for kind of stepping on him. I think I should have done things a little better since I was given a new car at that age, and I should have shown him my appreciation in a different way. But I continued to try to grow up. Coming from the inner city, When I got to San Antonio, I started loving the city. And what I loved about it is the people reached out to us. They accepted the Gervins like we had been here all our lives. And I try to do that with people that I meet. And it starts off with the young people. And I'm sorry to talk so much about the young people, but I get emotional, man. I mean, they're actually my life. To see a child smile, even if it's just that one day when they're around you, if you can see them smile that one day, that means that you are making an impact on them. You might not see them as often as you like, but
Mm-hmm.
you know that you did show them that they're capable of smiling and being happy and figuring things out. I'm a guy that always believed if they close one door, you find another door. If they
Mm-hmm.
take away your pen, you find a pencil. So there are no excuses. Everyone has challenges in their life. I don't care if you worth millions and millions, millions and millions. That's just material things. You still have to set yourself up for life. You still have to be able to realize, and this is for the young guys. Sometime when our parents, dad gets sick, and we can never control that. You are a lot of times the next person that's going to step into that man role.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to. I try to get them to think about those kind of things now. I don't like to be harp on it too much because I don't want them to grow old before their time. But I do try to get them to think about how life changes on a daily basis. And as life is changing, your life is also changing. So if it's going to change, make it change in a positive direction. And so that's the thing that I like for them to hear the most.
Man, Miss Mary, I mean, he's dropping this hometown legend. I mean, this is what we got him here for. We asked him to join us for. I mean, this is all about
Hey,
inspiring the
my
youth,
man, can
man.
I ask? Can I? I'm sorry. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, for sure.
Where you are right now, the show you're doing today, did you picture yourself being able to do this years ago, when a few 10 years ago?
Great question. No, no, Derek. I want to say, sir, please forgive me one time. No, sir, but no,
Well, I'm Derek
not at
right now.
all.
Yeah, but I see that's my
Derek, right
point. And
now.
young lady, yeah. Because at that age, you're the more things you have in your basket up here, you didn't just set yourself up for basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to see, you might have been good at music, you might have been good at drawing. There's so many other things that we can do. And I just can never let the young people just talk to me about basketball. Because what are you going to do if it doesn't work out? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
trying to put anything negative into your mind, but I try to be realistic with them.
Mm-hmm.
Why not have 3 or 4 plans? And that way you could be. I got a young man right now. He wants to be the first wrestler and basketball player, college basketball player and wrestler at the same time. And he wants to be the first. So just for him doing his research and finding out he would be the first, how could I turn my back on a kid like that?
Mm-hmm. How
So
receptive
I'm
are
all
your
I'm
kids?
all in.
How receptive are the kids to that though, whenever you tell them that basketball might not be in their future?
Well, and I'm gonna be honest about it. When I deal with my inner city kids the most, I try. That's where the problem comes in,
Mm-hmm.
and that goes back to the parents and your peers around you. We have got to stop thinking that our only way out the hood, as they say, is through sports or through rap. That is not the only, those are not the only ways. There are so many other positive ways. There are people that are out there helping raise for raising health, mental health awareness.
Mm-hmm.
There are people doing those kind of things. There are people that are working in these hospitals, these lawyers out here. What's better than to be able to see your kid work all these years and go to school and go to college and hit the books diligently and then go
Mm-hmm.
out there and become a lawyer, become a doctor. That is a prouder feeling to me than basketball, and it's a lot more realistic. So
Right.
I try to keep them realistic. If I tell you there's only 5,000 that ever played basketball, less than that, then that should tell you as an intelligent young person, your odds aren't very high.
Mm-hmm.
I knew my odds weren't very high. So I had to make sure if the basketball didn't work out, that I still could go work at the youth center and I could work in different capacities there and still help other young people go out. And sometimes the parents as well help them realize that their life is on an upward swing. and
Hmm.
things might go negative sometime, but we continue to push forward.
I'm gonna go back to this talking white thing because I heard Shaquille O'Neal say that probably 15 years ago.
Yes.
He says that when he hear black people say that, why do he talk white? Why do he sound white on TV? He simply say that's the difference of where he's at in life and where they're at in life. And he said, I don't say it to be disrespectful, but the condescending tone that's given to me when it's why do you talk white, Shaq? Why do you sound white? He said, I just make it a point. I know it's gonna register. You talk money and it registers to most people. He said, but how do I look like being Shaquille O'Neal trying to build a brand, walking into Pepsi or any of these other corporate America boardrooms and speaking quote unquote hood? He said, and that bothers him as well. He said, yes, every culture has its own time to talk culture talk, but you have to know the time and place for that. So I appreciate you bringing that up, that talking white thing. I never knew there was a such thing as called talking white. Like you said, education is everything. You
Well,
know,
you brought up Shaq. You know where Shaq grew up? Where Shaq went to high school?
San Antonio,
San
Texas.
Antonio, right here where I am.
Hmm.
That is true.
I met him as a
That is true.
16-year-old. So
Talk
I know
about
him.
that.
I met him when he was a little rough around the edges. One of my friends, actually, he was best friends with Shaq's dad. So I've been around here. I've talked to Shaq's son last year. I talked to his youngest or his oldest son last year. Before he went to, you know anything about his oldest son?
Yes, Sharif.
Yeah, I talked to him last year. You know,
Yes.
he was going first he was at UCLA, then he went to
Hmm.
LSU. I've
Yep.
actually talked to
Yep.
Sharif on the phone. So that's another young
Nice.
man, and I talked to him about the same thing. What is white talk? This
Hmm.
is what we need to get out of. There's a time for, and I'm gonna say it. It sounds kind of funny. I never used to say it, but you know, people, what's up, dog, and
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying. And I used to get on George about this, and I still do. When people say, you know what I'm saying constantly, you know what I'm saying. I used to tell him, look, man, if you go ahead and tell people what you're saying, yes, they'll know exactly what you're saying.
Right.
So you don't have to repeat. Yeah, I just don't like. We go out, and it's not even being fake. I
Hmm.
practice it even around my friends. I'm not the guy that's gonna be out there with all the cursing. I just try to be real about it. I'm not gonna like put on a false face for people.
Hmm.
So this is how I talk on a daily basis. It's worked for me so far. I'm not going to change. I'm just being myself. And I just feel like you want to come off as intelligent because the first impressions are sometimes, sadly, a first impression might not exactly be the right first impression, but that's the impression that stays in people's minds for a long time. So if
Hmm.
you're going to make a first impression, why not make a positive one as opposed to a negative
Mm.
Right. Now you said that you met Shaq at when he was 16 years old. You being a big man, him being a big man as well. Was there any advice that you gave to him or any guidance that you showed him on the basketball court?
No, because when I met him, it was at Fort Sam Houston here, and I just happened to see this tall guy standing in the door, and I told someone they were like, "Derek, look over in that door. That kid's 16, and he's about 7 feet." And so me standing where I am, I'm 6'8". I'm like, no, I bet when I get closer, I'm gonna be just as tall as him or taller.
Hmm.
So as I keep getting closer, I noticed he wasn't shrinking. So I would say that he doesn't even remember meeting me. But
Okay.
it was a pleasure meeting him because I knew his coach. His assistant coach was a friend of mine, and we still are today. So to see Shaq go on, and that just proves everything we talked about on this show. It's not how
Hmm.
you started. Shaq is from Newark, New Jersey,
Hmm.
very rough town. I'm from Detroit, another very rough city. I think a lot of people don't know because Shaq traveled a lot, the military and all that as he was moving around. But he was from Newark.
Okay.
And just because he's from Newark doesn't mean he has to speak like he's from Newark. If
Right.
you look at Shaq now, he's one of the biggest pitchmen on all of television.
Hmm.
And every time I see him, it just makes me proud. He's a big kid. A lot of times he acts silly and all that. But when it comes down to it, Shaquille O'Neal will give you the shirt off his back And you know, he does it for people. He does things he doesn't have to do. It's not all just for television. He is a great person. And I look at that more than basketball. Shaquille O'Neal and David Robinson in this city. I've been fortunate. Shaquille, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, George Gervin. You're talking about four superstars that exemplify what it's all about. It's not just about how well you can shoot a basketball. It's what kind of life you go out there and set for yourself. And do you lead the path to others to follow that path of greatness? And that's what I appreciate about the city of San Antonio and the players that they've been blessed to have.
Now,
Speaking
aside,
of David Robinson, oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna let you go.
Okay. Speaking of David Robinson, he has a school himself, doesn't he?
Yes, he has the car right
Yes.
now. They have an idea. He has some idea schools. Yes, and
Okay.
Dave and I've known Dave now since wow, I was in college in '82. So Dave, when Dave first got here at the end of, I'll say '89, I've known Dave now over 30 years. And when I see him, which is periodically, we never ever talk basketball. Dave is big on the word, and so he's always, and I gotta say, he's always walked the walk. I'm a Gervin, but when they start talking about being an exemplary person, man, David Robinson exemplifies what a athlete is, a scholar athlete. I couldn't name a better person, and I've been very fortunate. Dr. J is in my life. I've just been a very fortunate guy.
Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I've
Now,
been for if you look. Hey, go ahead, young lady. I'm sorry. I'm
no,
sorry.
you're fine. I'll let you continue. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. Just think the people I've named. I actually did a show last year with George Gervin and Dr. J on it together, and we talked a lot of basketball, but we also talked about a lot about life, and that was the fun part. I've known Dr. J since I was 10, so this will be 50 years I've known Dr. J. And once again, when I
Wow.
talk about him, it goes back to the same like with David Robinson, just a great human being.
Now, aside from you instilling having straight A's and making sure that your players maintain a great behavior on the court, what is something that you might want to share with those playing a sports, the scholar athletes, or just the youth period trying to enter into a career that they want to get involved with?
Well, young lady, the gentleman brought up Etan Thomas. Perfect
Mhm.
example. Etan writes articles.
Mhm.
I read one of his articles earlier today. Very intelligent guy. Another gentleman that played well from Syracuse, played in the NBA. But when you read his articles, you can see how intelligent he is. And for me, that's what it's about. I love sports. I'm a sports guy. But there's nothing better to be able to sit down, like say with my significant other, and to be able to talk about a variety of things. And it's not just sports, but when you can talk to someone and you can just show them how intelligent you are, and they can do the same. I don't think there's a better feeling in the world. I love the basketball, the right hand hooks and the left hand hooks, but I also like the hooks of life. Can I
Mm.
become a better person? And as I'm rising on my path, can I bring someone with me? And that's my biggest thing. If we're gonna run to the mountaintop, I don't just want to get there by myself. I would like to share that mountaintop with someone, and hopefully it'll be you two right here as well.
Most definitely. And I believe we're truly rising to the top together right now because you're dropping a lot of gems and you're doing it here on the Hometown Legends podcast series. And we appreciate you for joining us today.
Can I wish
So
you
we
can
have,
I wish you well on this show? I know you haven't done, I don't believe, a lot of shows yet, but I had, and I told Gerard, Mr. Mustafa, I wanted to thank him. But I think this show is going to be a success. And I think the two of you are great together. I've enjoyed it, and I don't say that. I don't take that lightly. I don't say that a lot. I've sincerely enjoyed the show, and I can only wish the two of you well. And I say today was absolutely excellent. I've met two new people that are hopefully a part of my life, and I appreciate you very much.
Yes,
man,
Derek, we thank you so much for just joining us today on the show. And We will definitely be reaching out because you are now our new friend.
Yes, sir.
Hey, and I hope you
Yeah,
take when I say it, I mean it. All you gotta do is ask around. I guarantee we will talk again.
Yes,
most
sir.
definitely.
Thank
Most
you.
definitely.
All right. Thank
Most
you.
definitely.
Thank you for
We
reaching out to
appreciate
me.
you. Yes, sir. Yes, Derek. Thank you. Continued blessings to you, the family, and any future endeavors that you have going on. And most definitely with your new position at the new job that you will be starting on Monday. Or I don't even want to call it
My
a job.
man.
I like to say outreach.
There you go. My man. I love you for that, man.
Most
Thank you
definitely.
very much. And I
Most
hope y'all
definitely.
have a fantastic day.
You
You
as
as well.
well.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Wow. You're welcome.
This is the Hometown Legends podcast series. That was Mr. Derrick Gervin as our guest. We will see you next week. Have a blessed day.